Welcome to the deep dive. We take a bunch of sources, pull out the key stuff, really, aiming to get you informed without, feeling totally buried in information.
Right. And today we're digging into a YouTube video transcript. The video is by Besta. It's called Eras.
Which translates to believe or allow.
Yeah, exactly. And that's our mission, really, to explore this core question the speaker raises.
Yeah.
When you encounter new perspectives, new ways of thinking about yourself or the world, should you jump straight to believing or rejecting? Or is there maybe another way?
Okay. And the source itself, this YouTube video transcript, it sounds like it's his first message to a specific group.
Yeah, it seems like the initial communication for members of something called the Kiev Club of Perfects over on Facebook.
Uh-huh. And what struck me reading the summary is the speaker noting that, well, he'd put up about 20 videos already.
Right.
But apparently nobody had asked any questions yet.
Which he found curious.
Yeah.
He sort of wonders, well, did everyone just get it? Did they agree with everything?
Or maybe they just didn't even know what to ask, you know?
Precisely. And he suggests that lack of engagement, that silence, might actually point to this core issue, this kind of binary thinking.
The title question, basically. Believe or allow.
Yeah, this whole believe it or not dichotomy.
Okay, so let's unpack that. The speaker argues that this common way we think, this sort of digital approach, yes, no, black, white, when it comes to belief, well, it's just not the perfect fit here.
He says it's kind of incorrect in principle for this context. While sure, any question is better than none.
Right, asking something is good.
But framing it only as, do I believe this, yes or no,
Yeah.
might actually stop you from, well, exploring what the ideas could offer. It's limiting.
So instead of demanding belief up front, what's his alternative?
He proposes thinking of his content as a model.
A model, okay, like a framework.
Exactly. A framework for looking at yourself, at the world, at your relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Close ones, distant ones, even the tricky ones, the adversarial ones.
That makes me think of that NLP idea.
The map is not the territory.
Yeah, that one. Is it sort of like saying this is just one possible map, one worldview?
That seems to be the essence of it, yes. It's a mindset, a way of seeing things. But then he adds another layer.
Oh.
He emphasizes that how you react to things happening, events affecting you or others, or even stuff that seems irrelevant, that reaction is actually more important than your initial view of the world.
Okay, wait. So it's less about is this map true and more about how does using this map change how I navigate?
You got it. And practical application over just intellectual agreement. It's not about saying, I believe. It's about noticing, when I think this way, how do I respond differently?
That's interesting. And he says, at least at the start, it doesn't even really matter if the model is, like, objectively true.
Right. Which sounds a bit counterintuitive at first, doesn't it?
It does.
But he does add the caveat, obviously, that if a model is totally, wildly off base.
We're probably going to feel bad. You'll bump into things.
Exactly. It'll likely lead to discomfort. But conversely, if it seems to align better with your experience, maybe it brings some comfort, some ease.
So the point isn't immediate judgment, true, false, but usefulness, testing it out.
Yes. Usefulness as a lens.
Yeah.
Can you see things differently through it? Does that different view help?
Okay. This leads him to an analogy, right? The green pill.
Ah, yes, the green pill. It's a bit mysterious. He mentions there are about 120 of these pills, these videos in total.
Wow, 120.
Yeah, with maybe 60 or so in the main playlist he's referencing, and probably like 3 videos specifically relevant to this first message.
And why green, does he say?
He actually makes a point of saying it's not the Matrix red pill, blue pill thing.
Okay, good to know.
But he asks why green, and then doesn't really answer it there. Maybe, given what comes next about remedies, it just signifies something potentially helpful or natural. We don't know for sure.
Remedies? Okay,
Yeah.
How does he connect the pills to that?
Well, he draws this comparison to medicine. Most pills, he says, they just treat the symptoms, right? Your headache, your cough. It's pretty rare, he argues, for a pill to actually fix the underlying disease, the root cause.
Okay, I see the analogy building. So engaging with his model, his green pill.
Is like testing a remedy. Initially, maybe it only helps with the symptoms.
And that's okay. He thinks that's still valuable.
That's his point.
Yeah.
He's quite upfront. Maybe it won't help you at all. But even if it just takes the edge off the symptoms, that's a positive start.
And what are symptoms in this context? We're not talking physical illness here.
No. He defined it as an improvement in your inner state, your general well-being, your outlook on life. If that gets better,
Then the remedy is having some effect, even if it's just symptomatic relief.
exactly. He then uses this slightly unusual comparison, he says, with a disclaimer about it being maybe a bit flippant.
Uh-oh.
He compares it to the temporary relief someone might feel from, say, a mild narcotic. Just that feeling of improved mood.
Huh.
And he brings in his background, apparently he's a chemist, and makes this funny aside about nitrous oxide laughing gas.
Yeah.
Mentions its history with American dentists, how it alters mood. And then, even more tangentially, he references the musical Little Shop of Horrors.
Little Shop of Horrors, how does that fit?
Well, he quickly clarifies it's a different thing.
Ah.
The plant granting success in the musical is a darker theme. It's just a quick, almost throwaway cultural reference, adds a bit of, well, him.
Right, add some flavor. But these analogies, they're all pointing towards what?
Judging the model by its effect on your mood and well-being?
I think so. It makes the abstract idea of changing your worldview feel a bit more concrete. Does it make you feel better? Does it help you function better?
So the big question then, is this model, this green pill, a cure?
Mm-hmm.
Does it fix the root cause?
He suggests it's probably too early to tell if it has those deep, lasting positive effects. But he emphasizes if adopting this perspective does lead to you feeling better, improved well-being, better mood, maybe even better interactions where people respond more positively to you.
Instead of, with arguments or negativity. Right. Then you can say it's having a beneficial effect. It's helping with the symptoms, as he puts it, of maybe an unhappy or less than ideal life experience.
He mentioned something about going for a walk, too, in Nima.
Ah, yes, almost an aside. He says he went for a walk there because it had become drier. It might be a subtle hint, perhaps, that his own internal state, maybe influenced by this model he lives by, is reflected in how he perceives or experiences his surroundings. Nima is probably just a place he knows.
So it's about noticing those real-world changes, however small.
That seems to be the feedback loop he's encouraging you, the listener, to pay attention to.
Which brings us to the core message, doesn't it? What's he actually telling people to do?
Essentially, try it out, experiment, give this worldview, this map, a go.
It's okay if you don't like it.
Totally. He says you might like it, you might hate it. You might go back to your old way of thinking. Or you might find something else entirely in religion, other teachings, or maybe even something you create yourself.
The crucial thing is
evaluating the result. You have to see for yourself, through your own experience. You can't know if it helps unless you actually try living with it for a bit.
He grounds this in his own experience too, right? He didn't just invent this out of nowhere.
No, he mentions he spent time deeply exploring various religions, like really immersing himself, being a devoted follower for a time.
But always evaluating.
Exactly. Critically assessing the outcomes for himself. And that whole process eventually led him to develop his own system. Though he admits it's not, 100% original. It builds on things.
That adds some weight to it, I think. It's not just theoretical for him.
Definitely. And he makes another interesting point about people already happy within existing systems.
Oh, yeah. Like who?
He gives the example of, say, Scientologists. He says if someone within that system, or any system, is genuinely happy and fulfilled, and importantly, not relying on, harmful substances to maintain it,
right,
then there's no need to try and convince them otherwise. Why mess with what's working?
So the ultimate test is just personal happiness, healthy happiness.
That seems to be his bottom line. It's very pragmatic, very focused on the individual's well-being.
Okay, so back to this Kiev Club of Perfects. He shared this initial idea. What's next for them?
Well, he says he plans to keep sharing his thoughts, apparently from a small hill in the forest, which sounds quite picturesque.
Huh, yeah. And his core suggestion for them moving forward.
It circles back to the beginning. Just allow.
Mm-hmm.
Allow the possibility that what he's saying might offer a useful internal perspective, even if it doesn't perfectly match objective reality, whatever that is.
A perspective that he feels doesn't really have limits.
That's what he suggests, yeah, that it seems to lack limitations.
And this ties into freedom.
Absolutely. He really stresses human freedom, the freedom to choose what clicks with you, what feels good, what brings pleasure.
But also the responsibility that comes with those choices.
Yes. Freedom and responsibility.
Yeah.
Which is why he says, look, if trying this makes you feel whoops, just drop it.
He pushes back against that idea that things have to get worse before they get better.
He does. He says, honestly, for him, when he was making these videos, sometimes going back and rewatching earlier ones actually improved his mood.
So it worked for him personally.
It suggests the model resonates with him and helps him.
Mm-hmm.
But he's careful, no guarantees it'll be the same for everyone else.
Right. It's a personal testimony, not a universal promise.
Precisely.
Okay. He mentions internal dialogue briefly.
Yeah, just notes that it's relevant and has presumably been covered before. Then he lands on the simple answer to his own question, believe or allow.
And the answer is?
Allow. Permit the model. Try living inside that worldview for a while.
And if it feels good, if it works.
Then the first basic conclusion, he says, is that it's helping with the symptoms of an unhappy life.
Just the symptoms, initially.
Right. He acknowledges that dealing with root causes might require more further self-exploration down the line, but symptom relief is a start.
Got it. And then he wraps up the message to the club.
Yeah. Reiterates the welcome, clarifies you don't need key registration, there are no binding obligations.
Practical stuff.
And mentions that, for now, understanding Russian is helpful to engage with the current material.
But maybe English versions later?
He hints at it, yeah. If enough native English speakers show interest. And that's pretty much the end of his initial message.
Okay, so wrapping up our own deep dive here, the big takeaway seems to be this encouragement towards, well, open-minded experimentation, maybe?
I think that's fair. Not immediate belief, not instant rejection, but trying on a perspective like you try on clothes. See how it fits you.
And the main way to judge it is by observing the effects on your own well-being, your mood, how you interact with the world.
Exactly. It puts the emphasis squarely on your personal experience and practical outcomes, rather than just accepting dogma. It's asking you to be an active scientist in your own life.
So a final thought perhaps for you listening. Think about a time you encountered a new idea, maybe a new approach to something, and you didn't fully commit right away, but you didn't dismiss it either. You just sort of allowed it for a while.
Yeah. What did you learn from that period of just letting it sit there, of trying it tentatively? How did that shape your understanding, even if you eventually decided it wasn't for you long term?
It's an interesting lens, isn't it, how we approach new information and maybe, just maybe, reshape our own inner maps.